Hello fellow ant keepers. Welcome back to the Ants Subang YouTube channel. Today we will look into one of my old-timer colonies, the Odontoponera denticulata. I have featured this colony in a few videos in the past. They are about 30 to 35 individuals, and I had them for more than 2 years now. Yes, I know, why haven't the colony grown any bigger? They have been through a lot, and they came close to dying off twice, but they came back every time a major catastrophe befell on them. Here are their stories. The first one, just late last year, they almost got wiped out by my own fire ants colony. They had managed to wipe off the barrier in their nest, and it was very unfortunate that the Odontoponera nest was on the same shelf level. The fire ants did not have any problem getting into the Odontoponera nest as it doesn't have a cover or any anti-escape barrier. At that point of time, I thought that there was no need for a cover as Odontoponera ants have slippery feet. That decision has caused them to lose many young juvenile workers. I was only thinking of them not being able to get out, but I was not thinking about preventing other ants from getting in. One that I would regret the most. They couldn't escape, and the fire ants ate all their food, and worst of all, the broods were all gone. Some dead workers were still clutching on the larvae when I found them. All this happened during the past year holidays when I was away for the weekends. Luckily, it was only for 2 days, and I cannot imagine if it's any longer. I believe it was only a few hours into their raid. Any longer and the queen would have been gone along with the few workers that she had. After that trauma, my Odontoponera queen refused to lay any eggs for a few months. Only after I changed the entire setup to a new one and put fresh substrate, she began to lay eggs and, finally, a few workers emerged. Not soon after that, another tragedy struck them. The second tragic incident was the mites infestation. We all have seen what the blood-sucking mites can do, and I took drastic steps to help my colony with the lemon treatment. For those who have not seen the video, do click the iCard link on the top right corner of the screen to watch it after this video. After the mites infestation, I took additional steps to ensure that the parasites would not get any comeback chances in my nest again. Even if they do, these little critters will make sure they do not blossom to a dangerous proportion that would harm my treasured colony. Isopods will not eat the mites per se, but they will eat the mites' eggs, and by doing so limit their numbers. Isopods are really important, and they are good biological cleaners that you can have in a substrate setup. In the very early stages of the Isopods introduction, before the mites incident, my Odontoponera don't seem to get along with them. All of them would be found and killed. I left it as it is, thinking that Isopods cannot live side by side with Odontoponera denticulata. It was up until recently when they got bigger, I changed to this bigger nest you are looking at now. I then attempted to introduce the Isopods in. I was expecting dead bodies of Isopods the next day or so, but there wasn't any. It seems like, and if I am not mistaken, the size of the nest did the trick. When they were in a smaller nest, all of them would cramp together. It is hard to designate border lines between the Isopods territory and Odontoponera lands. That was the reason why the Isopods are killed. You see, if Isopods are allowed to grow to mass quantities, it will be a threat to the Odontoponera broods. So, being so close to them would feel threatening. Sometimes Isopods can be a nuisance for the ants. In this case, it is the totally opposite. They live together as though they needed each other. Sometimes I witness some Odontoponera workers leaving the unfinished food at the Isopods congregation area, as though asking them to clean out the garbage. For those who want to know a little more on this ant species, I will briefly summarize here. They belong to the primeval ants, the Ponerini genus. It is native to Southeast Asia. They are also called the toothed Ponera ants. If anyone asked me, I feel that they are an easy species to keep. They are very versatile, meaning they are smart enough to care for themselves in a dire situation as compared to other ants. In my opinion, I also see a lot of individualisms. For most part, only one worker will do chores at a time. In terms of behavior, this species has just outgrown my expectations. I have crushed dried mosses around the setup, and I was happy when they began to pick up moss bits. Initially I thought they wanted the moss for their nest, which I consider to be useful since my trap jaw loves them for nest building. I observe how they meticulously pick the mosses regularly, but instead, they throw them at their wasteland and treat it like garbage. Oh well, not all ants are the same. The nest setup conditions are relatively simple for this species, maybe it is just me. I like setting up a simple nest that will make my life much simpler. Short-term non-compliance with the temperature or humidity does not necessarily lead to death, which is why this species could be particularly interesting to amateur ant keepers. Through the whole of the founding stages up to now I have been feeding them crickets, and they are their most favorite insect feeders. They do eat other insects, just not the glutton behavior you see with the crickets. They like to tear chunks of flesh and carry them into the nest so that they could feed the larvae. They have a ferocious appetite. There is a time I witnessed one larvae that crawled about 1 centimeter so that it could munch on the cricket. I didn't know they could do that. Well, I seen them wiggling but never crawling. My queen currently has her nest built in the test tube, which is placed into a tub setup. During the day I will remove the lid for better air circulation, and at daytime the room temperature will rise to around 28 to 29 degrees Celsius. During the night, I will close the lid back up and just spray water into the nest once every 3 days. Just do not allow the difference in temperature fluctuation to be wide apart. As for substrate, I have 2 mixtures of medium in this setup. One, the visually darker soil for the plants and small critters to dig and make their nest with. The other substrate is the desert sand I use in most of my ant setups to act as a base. It will harden once in contact with moisture and act as a good base for the nest. Furthermore, I could already observe quite a bit of aggressiveness as the colony grew. Contrary to last year, they weren't directly interested in my tweezers, usually they scurry away. I am beginning to get much attention now with the movement of my tweezer. They would be very curious and come very close. In the end, they became rather disturbing during cleaning and feeding time. This behavior is very similar to my Diacama rugosum colony. I am extremely happy that my colony did not give up and continued to fight to this day. They have been through a lot of obstacles and kept me up on my toes all the time. They have been growing steadily and have produced at least 5 workers here and 2 more coming soon. Achieving 50 workers will be a milestone for them, and being a caretaker truly is a satisfying experience. Hopefully, this setup will help them thrive and be free from any more catastrophe. We have reached the end of the video, and I am pleased that I can show the update of one of my ants' colony. Do like and subscribe to my channel, and I hope to make better contents in the future. Thank you for watching. Ants Subang.